The great palace of Valara rose above silver towers and glowing bridges. It was a place where nobles carried themselves with high pride, where every step echoed history and power. Within its halls, tradition ruled stronger than law, bloodlines decided fate, and no throne was ever shared with those considered lesser. That was why whispers filled every corner of the court on the day Princess Serenia announced her marriage. She was the only daughter of Queen Altharis, heir to the Valaran throne. She was admired by her people, respected by her council, and feared by her enemies. All expected her to marry a prince of noble standing or a warrior from a proud house. Instead, she chose a human. His name was Elias. He was not of noble blood. He was not known in battles nor in politics. To the nobles of Valara, he was simply a quiet man who bowed politely and spoke little. His plain clothes, his calm steps, and his silent nature only fueled the gossip. "She has thrown away her future," whispered Lord Virith, a gray-skinned counselor with sharp teeth. "Humans are fragile. They do not live long. They are no match for Valaran strength. This union is a stain on our throne," others agreed. Some laughed in secret. A few even predicted that the marriage would last no longer than a season, but Serenia stood firm. She did not flinch before the whispers. She walked beside Elias with her head held high, though even she felt the heavy stares pressing down on them. To Serenia, Elias was not like the men she had known. He did not boast of victories. He did not demand her attention with titles or riches. He spoke only when needed, and when he did, his words carried strange weight as if each one mattered. She remembered the first time they had met. It was not at a court or a battle, but in the quiet gardens outside the city. Elias had been watching the stars. Serenia asked him what he saw. He answered simply, "A map of places yet walked." It was not the answer of a common man. It was the answer of someone who saw the universe in silence. Still, Serenia could not explain why she chose him, not even to herself. She only knew she felt calm with him, a calm she had never found among nobles who fought for her hand. The wedding was held under the twin moons of Valara. The people gathered in thousands, their faces mixed with wonder, disbelief, and anger. The nobles wore masks of politeness, but their eyes betrayed them. Elias wore no crown, no armor. Only a simple robe of dark blue tied at the waist. His hair was black, his eyes steady. He did not smile, yet he looked at Serenia with quiet warmth. When the vows were spoken, his voice was deep but controlled, each word clear. "I stand with you, Serenia, in calm and in storm. I ask for no throne, no crown, only the chance to protect the one I walk beside." His words echoed through the hall. Some scoffed. Others shifted uneasily, for though simple, his vow felt more like a promise carved in stone. After the wedding, life in the palace grew tense. The council doubted him. The guards did not respect him. Servants whispered when he passed. Serenia watched it all with growing unease. She defended him in meetings, reminding the council that her choice was final. Yet even she felt the sting of doubt when she saw Elias remain quiet during feasts, speaking to no one, refusing to raise his voice even when insulted. One evening, Serenia sat with him in the private balcony of the palace. The city below glowed with lights. She turned to him and asked, "Do their words not wound you? They call you weak. They say you are unworthy. Why do you not answer them?" Elias sat still, looking at the horizon. "Their words are wind. A man must not chase the wind. But they doubt us," Serenia pressed. "They doubt me. They think I have chosen wrongly." Elias turned his gaze to her then. His eyes were calm, but behind them something sharp flickered. Doubt is the shadow of truth. When truth stands tall, shadows vanish. The day will come, Serenia, when their doubt ends. She frowned, puzzled by his certainty. Yet his words settled into her heart, though she could not explain why. Far beyond the palace walls, trouble brewed. The Krith Dominion, a brutal empire of warriors with iron hides and crimson eyes, watched Valara with hungry interest. Their scouts spoke of weakness in the throne, of nobles divided, of a foolish marriage that left the princess vulnerable. Plans of invasion began to form. Within the palace, few knew this storm was coming. The nobles were too busy whispering about Elias, mocking his silence, doubting his worth. But Serenia noticed something the others did not. Though Elias spoke little, though he carried himself like a shadow, he always moved with purpose. His steps were silent but precise. His hands, though gentle when he touched hers, bore faint scars. Sometimes, when he thought no one was watching, He would look toward the stars with an expression not of peace but of memory. She wondered then, what life had he lived before her? What battles had he walked away from? Why did he carry silence like armor? One night she found him in the palace courtyard alone. The moonlight fell across him as he stood still, as if listening to something far away. "You are not what you seem," Serenia said softly, stepping closer. Elias did not turn at once. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. "Every man wears two faces. One for the world, one for the day that will come. And yours?" she asked. He looked at her then, and in his gaze she felt something heavy, something hidden. "Mine is not yet needed, but when it is, Serenia, you will see it. I only ask that when that day comes, you do not fear me." A chill ran down her spine, but not from fear, from something else. Anticipation, perhaps, or the weight of unknown truth. She wanted to ask more, but he turned away, leaving her with only silence. The next morning, the council gathered again. They pressed Serenia to reconsider her marriage. Lord Virith sneered openly now. "Your human is nothing. When war comes, he will run. Valara deserves a champion, not a shadow." Serenia's temper rose, but before she could speak, Elias, who had stood silently beside her, finally broke his silence. His voice cut through the chamber like a blade. "If war comes," he said, "I will not run. I will stand where others fall. And should that day arrive, you will remember these words." The council fell quiet. Even Lord Virith's tongue stilled. For the first time they felt something in the human's voice, a weight they could not dismiss. Serenia looked at him with new eyes. He was quiet, yes, but his quiet was not weakness. It was restraint. And she began to wonder in the shadows of her thoughts what storm would bring forth the man behind that silence. Life in the Valaran palace did not grow easier for Elias after the wedding. If anything, the whispers grew sharper, the stares colder. Every feast, every council meeting, every gathering reminded Serenia how much her choice was scorned. The nobles of Valara were proud of their strength. They admired warriors who boasted of victories, who carried scars like jewels, who showed power in every movement. Elias was nothing like them. He was quiet, calm, and never raised his voice. To the Valaran court, that silence was weakness. At feasts, when goblets clinked and laughter rang out, Elias sat still. He answered questions with few words. He never boasted, never joined the loud tales of war. Some nobles laughed openly at him. "Does he even know how to hold a blade?" one sneered. "Perhaps he fights battles in his dreams," another said, drawing laughter from the table. Serenia heard these insults and burned with anger, but Elias never reacted. He simply listened in silence, eyes steady, as if their words were nothing but dust in the wind. The counselors were worse. In meetings, they pressed Serenia to annul the marriage. Lord Virith spoke most boldly. His sharp teeth gleamed as he declared, "Princess, your union weakens the throne. Our enemies laugh at us. The Krith Dominion waits for any sign of weakness. And what do we give them? A human consort with no name, no rank, and no power." The other counselors nodded, muttering agreement. Even Queen Altheris, Serenia's mother, looked uneasy, though she did not speak against her daughter. Serenia clenched her fists. "Elias is my choice. The throne is not weakened by loyalty nor by honor. He is my consort, and that is final." Virith's cold smile deepened. "So be it. But when war comes, remember that a shadow cannot shield you." Elias stood at Serenia's side through all of this, silent as always. Only when they were alone in their chambers did she confront him. "Why do you let them speak so?" she demanded. "Why do you let them mock you? You are my consort. You are my husband. Do you not care how they shame you?" Elias sat calmly, his hands folded. "Words are nothing, Serenia. They wound only those who believe them." "But I do care," she pressed. "They think you weak. They think I have chosen wrongly. They do not see what I see." He looked at her then, his dark eyes steady. "Let them doubt. Doubt is their shield. If they saw truth now, they would fear it. And fear spreads faster than loyalty." His words puzzled her. She wanted to ask what truth he spoke of, but he turned away as if the conversation had ended. Days passed, and still the whispers grew. Serenia began to feel the weight of her choice heavier than ever. She still believed in Elias, but doubt crept into her heart like a shadow. What if the council was right? What if Elias truly could not defend her throne when danger came? That danger was closer than most realized. Far beyond the stars, the Krith Dominion sharpened their blades. The Krith were known across the galaxy as conquerors, their crimson eyes glowing beneath armored hides. They respected only strength and despised weakness. To them, Valara was a ripe fruit waiting to be crushed. Their spies returned with news that the palace of Valara had never been quieter at night. The silver towers reflected the twin moons and the air was still, almost holding its breath. Inside, Serenia walked through the halls with a sense of unease she could not explain. The court had been tense all day and her mind kept returning to Elias's words. When the storm arrives, you will see the truth. The first sign came quietly. A guard at the outer gate sounded no alarm. Another disappeared without explanation. Serenia's intuition screamed that something was wrong, but the palace seemed normal. Lights glimmered in the towers and the distant voices of nobles laughed in their private gatherings. Then the first alarm sounded. A sharp clanging bell echoed through the halls, waking every soul in the palace. Guards ran to the gates only to find the walls breached. Valara's traitors, those who had quietly conspired with the Krith Dominion, had opened the gates. Crimson armor glinted in the moonlight as alien warriors poured through. Serenia's heart leapt into her throat. "Elias!" she shouted, and he appeared beside her instantly, calm as ever, his hand brushing against hers. The palace descended into chaos. Nobles screamed orders that could not be followed. Guards fought bravely but were outmatched. Valara's halls, once a symbol of pride and power, were quickly overrun. The Krith warriors moved like a tide of iron and fire. Their weapons struck with brutal precision. Panic spread like wildfire, and in the midst of it the counselors ran for safety, leaving Serenia unprotected. Serenia froze as a Krith soldier raised his blade toward her. The prince's young daughter, the crown of Valara, would have been struck down if not for Elias. He stood before her, silent, still. The soldier sneered, certain the human would flee. "Move aside, weakling." Then Elias drew his sword. It was not a simple weapon. The blade glowed faintly, humming with energy. Its steel was unlike any forged by Valara or any known human craft. The Krith warrior's eyes widened in disbelief. Elias moved with a speed that seemed impossible. In one smooth motion, he deflected the strike and struck back, cutting the alien's armor as if it were paper. The nobles watched in shock. This was not the quiet, ordinary human they had mocked for weeks. This was a warrior of legend. Serenia could not breathe. She had seen him fight in training, a few subtle moves and exercises, but never like this. Elias was a storm unleashed. Every swing of his sword was precise. Every step he took calculated. The Krith warriors who thought him weak fell one by one. Even when outnumbered, he moved as if the palace itself obeyed him. Tables, pillars, and walls became part of his strategy, giving him cover, forcing enemies into traps. Every time he struck, he seemed to anticipate their next move as though he had already walked through this battle in his mind. "Elias," Serenia shouted, running to his side. How can you fight like this?" He did not answer with words. He simply moved to intercept another warrior who lunged toward her. In a flash, the attacker fell, disarmed and stunned. Elias's calm face betrayed no emotion, but the sword sang in the air, a deadly promise. The Krith were shocked. Their numbers could not protect them from a single human. Their arrogance had been their downfall. They had assumed weakness. They found something far stronger. Serenia felt pride and fear swirl together. This man, whom everyone had mocked, whom her own court had dismissed, was now the guardian of Valara itself. The counselors who had run for safety now peered from the shadows, mouths open in disbelief. Lord Virith, who had called Elias a shadow, now whispered, What is he?" Elias heard nothing but the clash of steel and the rhythm of battle. He moved with quiet grace, a protector more than a fighter. Every strike precise, every motion deadly. He seemed to know instinctively which enemies to strike first, which to avoid, and how to shield Serenia at all times. Hours passed like minutes. Valara's palace had become a battlefield, but slowly the tide began to turn. The Krith, confident in their conquest, were faltering. Their armor was breached. Their formations broken. One by one they fell to the quiet human who had once been underestimated. Finally, a towering Krith warlord clad in dark crimson and black approached. His eyes blazed with fury as he saw his soldiers fall before a human he had dismissed. "You, human," he growled. "You cannot stand against the Krith Dominion." Elias faced him without fear. The blade in his hand hummed softly. "I do not fight for glory," he said, voice calm, carrying over the battlefield. I fight to protect those who cannot. The Krith laughed, a sound like grinding metal. He lunged, swinging a massive blade. Elias moved, deflecting the strike with ease. His sword cut through the Krith's armor, but he did not kill immediately. Every motion was controlled, measured. Even in battle, he spared life where he could. Serenia watched, her heart pounding. She had married this man, yes, but she had never known him like this. Every step he took, every swing of his sword spoke of experience, discipline, and something ancient. She realized then that his silence had not been weakness. It had been patience. He had waited for the day he would be needed most, and that day was here. The warlord roared and struck again. Elias parried, spun, and moved so fluidly it seemed the air itself obeyed him. With a final strike, he disarmed the warlord and sent him sprawling. The remaining Krith warriors faltered, fear overtaking their arrogance. By dawn, the palace stood, battered but intact. The Krith had retreated, leaving a trail of defeat. Valara had survived, and the nobles who had mocked Elias now stared at him in stunned silence. Serenia ran to him, her hands shaking as she held his arm. "Elias, you saved us all," she whispered. He looked at her calmly, sheathing his sword. "The palace, the people, they were never yours to fight alone. I only stood where I was needed." For the first time, he allowed a small, almost imperceptible smile. Serenia felt tears prick her eyes, pride swelling in her chest. The man she had chosen, whom the world had scorned, had changed everything in a single night. The counselors, pale and silent, dared not speak. Lord Virith's sharp eyes softened, but he did not meet Elias's gaze. Respect, perhaps even fear, had replaced his mockery. Elias did not seek praise. He only turned to Serenia, his hand still in hers. "The storm is not over," he said quietly. "Others will come. But for now we have won this night," Serenia nodded. She did not fully understand all he was, but she knew one thing clearly. The quiet human at her side was no longer just her husband. He was Valara's protector, a force the galaxy had underestimated, and in the shadows beyond the walls, distant fleets of the Krith Dominion watched, realizing that Valara was far stronger than they had imagined. The morning after the attack, the palace of Valara was filled with whispers. Guards patrolled with renewed vigor. Nobles moved cautiously through the halls, and the streets below were lined with citizens cautiously stepping outside. They had survived the Krith assault, but the cost had been high. Broken gates, shattered windows, and fallen guards marked the once proud palace. Yet amid the destruction, one figure stood taller than any other: Elias. The nobles still could not hide their astonishment. The quiet human whom they had scorned for weeks had fought like a force beyond imagination. Lord Virith, the sharp-tongued counselor, watched from a balcony, his mouth slightly open, unable to form words. He muttered under his breath, This cannot be human." Serenia walked beside Elias through the main hall, her hand brushing against his arm. Her eyes were wide with both awe and worry. "They will not forgive us for letting the Krith even touch our walls," she said softly. "They think Valara weak because of me. Because of you." Elias shook his head calmly. "They only see what they wish to see. Power is more than appearances, and weakness is often hidden in pride, not silence." Serenia looked at him closely. She wanted to understand him, to know the source of his skill and calm. "Your sword, where did it come from? How do you fight like that?" Elias paused, resting his hand on the hilt of the glowing blade. "It is old, very old. Older than the stories of Valara, older than most know. It carries the strength of those who came before me. It waits for the day it is needed." "Waits?" Serenia asked, puzzled. "Every warrior carries a past," Elias said softly. "Mine is not yet fully revealed. But this blade, it remembers battles, remembers the blood spilled to protect the innocent. And tonight it remembered its master." Serenia felt a shiver. He spoke like a man who had lived centuries, yet he looked no older than any human of her time. She realized then that his quietness had not been emptiness. It had been patience, preparation, restraint. Word of his actions spread quickly. By mid-morning, citizens had gathered outside the palace gates. They had watched the battle from a distance and whispered among themselves. "The quiet human," one said. "The princess's husband. He fights like a legend." Others nodded in agreement, eyes wide with awe. Rumors spread through the city, and soon even the lower-ranked nobles began to murmur. Many of them came to the palace seeking to see Elias with their own eyes. In the council hall, the remaining counselors gathered hesitantly. They had seen the aftermath of the battle and the defeated Krith retreating into the stars. Lord Virith spoke first, his voice low and cautious. "Princess, you're human. He is extraordinary. I have never seen such skill, never." Elias remained silent, standing just behind Serenia. He did not ask for praise, nor did he react to it. He had fought not for recognition, but for survival and for the safety of... The morning sun rose over Valara with a golden glow, but it did little to ease the tension. The city had survived the Krith attack, yet the threat remained. The Krith Dominion would not forgive defeat. They would return, stronger and more determined. Inside the palace, the mood was urgent. Guards sharpened their weapons, soldiers drilled in formations, and counselors whispered strategies. But despite all preparations, many feared the outcome. They still remembered the first invasion and the terrifying strength of the Krith. Serenia walked through the training grounds with Elias. Soldiers trained tirelessly, guided by him. His quiet presence commanded respect without harsh words. Each instruction he gave was simple, precise, and immediately understood. "Form tighter lines," he called. "Do not leave gaps. Protect one another. Strength is unity, not speed." Soldiers who had been uncertain of their abilities before now moved with confidence. They watched Elias fight and train, and slowly their fear was replaced with determination. One young soldier, barely 16, asked, "Sir, can humans really fight like you?" Elias knelt, his eyes meeting the boy's. "Humans are underestimated," he said. "We are small, yes. Our bodies are fragile, yes. But our minds, our will, our courage, these make us strong. Strength is not in size. Strength is in purpose." The boy nodded, eyes wide. "I want to be like you, sir." "Then listen. Learn. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. And one day you will know strength." Word of Elias's skill had spread across the city. Citizens whispered stories of the quiet human who had saved the palace. Children drew pictures of him with his glowing sword, and merchants repeated tales of his speed and precision. Even the nobles, though cautious, began to acknowledge his ability. But Elias did not seek praise. His focus was on the coming war. The Krith would return, and this time they would bring a fleet. He knew Valara's survival depended not only on bravery, but also on strategy. That evening, the Krith fleet appeared on the horizon, black ships blotting out stars. Their banners, red and silver, gleamed under the twin moons. The people of Valara gasped, fear and anticipation rippling through the city. Serenia stood beside Elias on the palace balcony, her heart pounding. "They are more than last time," she whispered. "They are confident," Elias said, voice calm. "Confidence can be dangerous, but it can also be used against them." Valara's army moved under his guidance. He divided the soldiers into formations, teaching them how to use the terrain, how to protect one another, how to set traps for the Krith. The city's natural defenses, high walls, narrow streets, and hidden passages, became part of his plan. As the Krith ships landed, their warriors charging forward, Elias led the first line of defenders. He moved like a shadow, striking, parrying, and guiding his soldiers with unmatched skill. Each move was precise, each attack calculated. The Krith, confident in their numbers, were surprised. The Valarans fought differently now, not as scattered defenders, but as a unified force. Elias's strategies turned the city into a fortress of motion. Narrow streets became killing zones. Hidden pathways allowed Valarans to strike Krith from behind. The defenders moved as one, their fear replaced by discipline and trust in their leader. Serenia watched from above, awe growing with each passing moment. Elias was no longer the quiet human she had married. He was a commander, a warrior, a strategist whose mind and skill inspired every soldier around him. The battle raged for hours. The Krith brought powerful war machines, towering constructs of iron and flame. But Elias adapted. He led squads to disable the machines, targeting weak points using clever traps. Each success bolstered the defenders' courage. At one point, a massive Krith warlord attempted to break through the lines. His armor was thick, his blade enormous. Soldiers faltered in fear, but Elias stepped forward. Calm, precise, he engaged the warlord, moving with a speed that belied human limits. Strike after strike, parry after parry, he forced the enemy back. Finally, the warlord fell, his army's morale shattered. The Krith began to retreat, confusion and fear spreading through their ranks. Valara's defenders pursued carefully, harrying them without overextending. The tide had turned. What had seemed impossible at dawn was now within reach. Serenia moved through the streets, helping the wounded, comforting the fearful, but her eyes always returned to Elias. Every time he appeared, the soldiers rallied. Every time he struck, the enemy faltered. He was the heart of Valara's defense. By nightfall, the Krith were in full retreat. Their ships lifted off, leaving behind casualties, broken weapons, and a humiliated army. Valara had survived, stronger and more united than before. The counselors, once mocking, now bowed in respect. Lord Virith approached Elias cautiously. You have done what no Valaran could, he said, voice low. You have turned defeat into victory. Elias nodded quietly. Victory is not mine alone. It belongs to those who stood, who fought, and who refused to give up. Humans are strong, yes, but strength is nothing without unity. Serenia's heart swelled with pride. She realized that the quiet human she had married was not just strong, he was extraordinary. He had taught the city, the army, and even the nobles a lesson they would never forget. Never underestimate a human. Later in the palace, Serenia and Elias stood together on the balcony. The city was alive with celebration. Fires burned in the streets, music and laughter echoed. Citizens cheered their defenders, and stories of the human warrior spread like wildfire. Serenia took Elias's hand. They call you a hero now, she said softly. Elias looked at her calmly. A hero is only a word. What matters is that we survived, that people are safe. Titles and praise are empty compared to that. Still, she replied, they will never see you as quiet again. They will never underestimate you again. He smiled faintly, a shadow of warmth in his eyes. Let them learn. Underestimation is dangerous, but understanding, that is even more powerful. One day the galaxy will remember that humans are not to be dismissed. For the first time, Serenia truly understood him. His silence had been patience. His calm had been preparation. His quiet demeanor had hidden strength that no one, not even the Krith, could have guessed. And now, Valara stood stronger, united, and inspired by the quiet human at its center. But Elias knew the Krith would return. Their pride would not allow defeat to go unpunished. The next attack would be harder, larger, and more brutal. He had not fought all his battles yet. But he was ready. And with Valara united behind him, he would not fail. For the first time, Serenia understood the truth of the prophecy she had never spoken aloud. The quiet human she had married would change everything. And in that moment, the city of Valara felt the power of humanity. Disciplined, patient, and unstoppable. The war was not over. The galaxy had only begun to understand the danger and the greatness of Elias. The sun had barely risen over Valara when reports came in. The Krith had returned. Their fleet was larger than before, dark ships blotting out stars as they hovered over the city. Smoke from distant fires still lingered in the sky, a reminder of the previous assault. The citizens of Valara trembled in fear, yet this time the city was not unprepared. Elias stood on the palace balcony, gazing at the approaching fleet. He had spent days preparing, training the soldiers, organizing defenses, and ensuring that every strategy accounted for the Krith's strength. His calm demeanor, once questioned by the nobles, now inspired them. Serenia stood beside him, her hand gripping his. They are more numerous than last time, she said, voice low. Elias's eyes were steady. Numbers do not win battles. Skill, preparation, and courage do. Today Valara will show them what humans and its people can do. The council gathered quickly, now united under his guidance. Nobles and soldiers alike followed his orders without question. Each barricade, each trap, and each formation had been meticulously planned. Valara had become a fortress, not merely a city. As the Krith ships landed, their warriors poured forward, crimson and silver gleaming in the early light. The ground shook under the force of their advance. Yet Elias did not falter. He stepped onto the streets, sword in hand, moving with the precision of a master. The first clash was fierce. Krith warriors, larger and stronger than any Valaran soldier, charged with fury, but Elias met them head-on. Each strike of his sword was calculated, each move a lesson in strategy and precision. Soldiers trained under him now followed his example, moving with discipline, striking where necessary, and covering one another. The Krith had expected chaos and fear, but instead they met unity and skill. One by one, their advances were repelled. Their confidence began to waver as their strongest warriors fell to the silent human who had become the heart of Valara's. Defense word spread quickly among the Krith. Ranks of a human who moved faster than the eye could follow, whose sword struck with deadly accuracy, and whose calm was unshakable even in the face of overwhelming odds. Their warlord, furious and humiliated from the previous defeat, charged forward personally, towering over the battlefield, eyes burning with hatred. Elias met him at the city gates. The warlord swung a massive blade and the ground trembled with each strike. Falaran soldiers hesitated, but Elias did not. He moved with a fluidity that seemed impossible, deflecting the warlord's blows and countering with precise strikes. Serenia watched from a balcony above, heart racing. She had never seen such skill, such determination. Hurt human whom the nobles,